Is the Samoa Agreement moral panic a case of lying by omission or deliberately leaving out important details so the truth is skewed or misrepresented in the name of political expediency?
Because in April 2021, all the Caribbean countries initialed this agreement, the draft agreement, which has not changed essentially from what it was 2.5 years ago.
Now, on November 19th of this year, the influential Roman Catholic Archbishop of Port of Spain, Jason Gordon, set off a moral panic and hysteria across the region by suggesting that the European Union successfully forced the imposition of specific Western values he and many conservative elements of Caribbean society deem objectionable in the newly signed Samoa Agreement. These values have to do with the definition of gender, the positionality of sex and gender, and human sexuality in the governance and education structure of Caribbean societies.
But if they sign this, for 20 years, the nation is going to be in trouble. For 20 years. For 20 years. Now, people think that we are in a post-colonial society. And I keep hearing the term and I keep asking myself, I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing more colonial than LBGT ideology.
His comments were shared ad nauseum on social media platforms of several activists across the Caribbean, including in Grenada, where several NNP and some NDC activists got in on the action, reflecting the continued influence of the Roman Catholic Church in the Caribbean in respect of their role in shaping public discourse and in shaping how governments function, notwithstanding the Church's checkered past as a site for the sexual abuse of minors and its role in the spreading of colonialism and slavery in the Western Hemisphere. So while Archbishop Gordon speaks of New Age colonization via the Samoa Agreement, perhaps the esteemed prelate should also tell his congregation about the institution's papal bull of May 1493, issued by Pope Alexander VI. This papal decree played a central role in the Spanish invasion of the Western Hemisphere, first by Christopher Columbus, and then by the teeming hordes of Catholic colonizers who came after him. The papal bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be, quote, discovered, unquote, claimed and exploited by Catholic Christian rulers. And the Catholic Church further declared that, quote, the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere, increased and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to faith itself, unquote. This doctrine of discovery became the basis of all European claims in the Americas, as well as the foundation for the same colonialism the esteemed Archbishop now rails against. So when Christopher Columbus said he discovered the islands of the Caribbean, where people already lived, he was inspired by the Catholic Church. But this editorial is not as much about Archbishop Gordon and the role of the Catholic Church as a credibility challenged messenger of moral guidance, as it is about the political weaponization of an agreement that the previous administration in Grenada was privy to before their 2022 electoral defeat at the polls. Since Gordon's comments, the now opposition New National Party in St. George's railed against the Deacon Mitchell administration for signing the Samoa Agreement. They contend that the agreement was signed behind closed doors without adequately informing the national community about its contents.
This is even more frightening frightening when I ask myself, is there anything else that you signed that you told us you did not sign?
Undoubtedly, the administration in St. George's, through its Foreign Minister Joseph Andel and its European Ambassador Raphael Joseph, as well as the Prime Minister, did their administration no favors by saying the agreement would be studied in detail in a November 22nd press conference before it was to be signed a day later in Brussels by the ambassador, after informing the public of its signature.
Grenada, for sure, we are not willing to surrender our sovereignty to any international organization. And if there is any part of any proposed agreement that is inconsistent with our Constitution and with our values, we'll think very long and hard before entering.
I myself have not read the agreement, so I can't tell you whether the agreement says the things that people are saying it says. I suspect at the end of the day, our technocrats and bureaucrats who go through the agreement will best be in a position to tell us exactly what the agreements actually state.
Now let's hear the utterances from the opposition's political platform in the last 2 weeks.
The cabinet must take responsibility. You can't sign an agreement and the cabinet, the Prime Minister said he didn't read it. So he didn't go to cabinet? In our time, I said to you, in our time, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, I had to bring any agreement to be signed to cabinet, to have a discussion on it before any ambassador signs it or before I sign it as the minister.
Brothers and sisters, a former U.S. Secretary of State said, we must fight discrimination against gays and lesbians abroad using foreign aid and diplomacy. So don't pretend that we're in a world where the bigger countries are not going to use every opportunity to put something in a document. When you don't read it, you're putting us at risk. When you don't read it, you're putting us at risk. And that is the concern that people have. Brothers and sisters, we have to be careful with what we say and what we do.
In these utterances, it appeared that the current opposition members are just learning about the Samoa Agreement. But in an appearance on the Bub Report on December 3rd, Gregory Hinkson, a former cabinet minister in the Mia Mottley government, said this.
Pacific. And Dr. Keelan, I just want to correct a statement that
Yes.
countries in the Caribbean, CARICOM, have not agreed or agreed on block to it. That is incorrect, because in April 2021, all the Caribbean countries initialed this agreement, the draft agreement, which has not changed essentially from what it was 2.5 years ago. In fact, all the ACP countries initialed this agreement, or it was initialed on their behalf. So that isn't really correct. And as I said,
Just to piggyback there, I just want to be able to put this in context. You're saying in April of 2021, all countries in the Caribbean initialed this agreement.
that is correct, sir.
Okay.
That is
So,
correct.
Explain to me the initialing of the agreement that was done in April of 2021 against the backdrop of the official signing of the agreement now. Talk to us about that process.
I can't say, sir. I could only speak for Barbados. I will not hold myself out to speak on behalf of why.
We here at the Bub Report then proceeded to do our own research on the timeline of the agreement. And this is what the timeline revealed. On the 3rd of December 2020, the chief negotiators from the European Union and their counterparts in the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States reached a joint emphasis on a political deal on the text for the new partnership agreement that will succeed the Cotonou Agreement, to be called the Samoa Agreement. This was in 2020. Grenada's foreign minister at the time of this deal was Mr. Oliver Joseph, who had just assumed the role of Minister with responsibility for foreign affairs in a September 2020 cabinet reshuffle, replacing Mr. Peter David. Its ambassador to Brussels at the time was C.J. Augustine Kanu, the daughter of history-making Canadian ex-parliamentarian Dr. Jean Augustine. Now, on April 15th of the following year, the chief negotiations from the European Union and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States held an initialing ceremony to mark the end of the negotiations. This is what MP Hinkson said about the initialing ceremony.
I'm not going to get into the internal politics of Grenada. I'm
Yes.
a Caribbean person, but when you look at April 2021 and you see who was in office, I don't have to speak anymore. I believe the then Foreign Minister, the Honorable Peter David, I may be wrong. Peter may have been holding a different portfolio.
The joint statement from all member states, including Grenada, stated, quote, "The agreement that will succeed the Cotonou Agreement once both sides complete their internal procedures for signature and conclusion sets the scene for alliance building and more coordinated actions on the world stage, where the group's impact can be significant to tackle some of the most acute global challenges," unquote. So was this a case of one hand not knowing what the other was doing? Did Grenada's ambassador to Brussels in 2020 and 2021, appointed by Dr. Mitchell's NNP administration, act on her own behalf and not report to them that she initialed the final agreement that we see today? What about then Minister Oliver Joseph, Foreign Minister Mr. Oliver Joseph? Did he raise the moral panic about the gender identity and sexuality aspects of the agreement in 2020 or 2021? Did the previous administration report to the people about these concerns? Or were they waiting on Archbishop Gordon to do so? What about Grenadian civil society? Where were they on this? Did they not know about this agreement? Now, if the people were not duly informed of these concerns, was there a reason for withholding this information from the citizenry in the first place? Is the Samoa Agreement moral panic a case of lying by omission or deliberately leaving out important details so the truth is skewed or misrepresented in the name of political expediency? We will continue to watch the space, and it is important that truth be given the ventilation that it really deserves. Hi everyone, thanks for checking out the Bub Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG 10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.